feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming at you Wednesday morning. It's January 14th. And coming up on today's show, I will be joined by Wolves beat writer Chris Hine from the Star Tribune. And we have the debut of Joan Beringer to discuss. He had 13 points, 4 offensive rebounds, and was 6 of 7 from the field in making his kind of debut last night. Chris and I will get into Beringer and the Wolves' blowout victory in Milwaukee last night that came with Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert out of the lineup. I also want to spend some extended time in this episode talking about Julius Randle after we talk about last night's game. In last night's game, Randle, as he does whenever Ant is out, had another huge game. Chris and I will get into that, just his play of late. But the main thing I want to talk with Chris about is he wrote an awesome feature on Julius Randle's mental health journey that I'd like to get into because one, Randle was really transparent in his interview with Chris, and because, you know, with Randle being one of the Wolves' best players, it's very relevant to, you know, what this team can do this season, where Julius Randle is at mentally. So all that and more coming up with Chris Hine here shortly. I did want to let you know before we get started that this Saturday, January 17th, Kyle and I will be hosting a watch party for the Wolves rematch against the Spurs at Treasure Island Resort and Casino. The game starts at 7 p.m. and will be on the projection screen, on the TVs, in the Parlay Lounge. There'll be free food, prize giveaways, and an appearance from Crunch during the game. But before the game starts at 6 p.m., we're going to do a live show from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., also in the Parlay Lounge. Kyle and I will be there, and we'll have the Crunch Wears No Pants crew join us on stage for a bit there. And then if you want to come even earlier, there's going to be a happy hour. We're going to be there taking questions, all that sort of stuff at 5 p.m. So that's the schedule on January 17th at Treasure Island. 5 p.m. happy hour, 6 p.m. live show, 7 p.m. Wolves Spurs watch party. It's going to be a blast. And if you want to stay the night at Treasure Island, for listeners, they are offering 20% off your stay. Use the promo code WOLVES when you book your one-night stay on Saturday at Treasure Island, and you will get 20% off. Visit TICasino.com for more information. Chris Hine coming up next. All right, we are now joined by Wolves beat writer Chris Hine, who has trekked over here to the studio through the cold. You still got you a little red in the face a little bit. How we
fresh. Doing? It is cold out today, everybody. Yeah, I would not recommend a 20-minute walk in the cold today.
That's the
Mistake
worst.
Mistake by me.
It was like 45 yesterday, you know, and then you kind of always anticipate it's going to be the same the next day. Not the case.
Rude awakening.
Today. Rude awakening. Yes. Well, we have let's start with the Milwaukee game, of course, and Beringer. I think that's the place to start with this game. That's what was new. No Rudy Gobert meant Joan Beringer was going to get an opportunity. I forgot that Giannis was his favorite player. That's kind of cool. Got an opportunity against Giannis and looked more than competent in the 30 minutes that he played. What stood out to you most about Beringer's performance?
He just looked like he belonged, like from the jump. Like there was no like unsure moments. There was no awkwardness. It's like it looked like he had been in the rotation all season, that he had been playing, that he looked like he belonged. And I was surprised at how fast he hit the ground running, to be honest with you. It was a good, I thought we were going to see like, okay, Giannis is off the floor, Berenger's in. I thought it was going to be like that for the night. Like this was, okay, these are the minutes that he's going to play tonight. And it wasn't. He stayed on the floor for, you know, like a Nas Reed style shift almost, right? What was it, like 11 minutes, that first shift? Yeah. And he earned it because he was making all these hustle plays. He was on his stuff defensively. Like he seemed to understand where to be, what position to be in, rebounding at both ends. And yeah, he just looked like he belonged. I don't think you could be any more encouraged by what you saw from him last night. It was a hell of a unofficial official debut for him in the rotation last night.
It's a relatively like basic role to just be a center, but I think that was an open question of like how he was going to be able to handle it. When Jason and I were talking on Monday, was like, I wonder what the offense is going to like look like. Cause obviously he's not going to be spacing the floor. Is he going to understand how to kind of position himself in the paint like Rudy does, without totally being in the way of other players? And like you said, it did seem natural. It seemed like he had a good feel. I felt like for spacing on the floor, and then obviously a really good fit for energy. And I think for me, the functional skill that showed up the most is that like at 19 years old, he's going to be an offensive rebounding kind of menace.
Yeah.
He's going to go every time like Rudy has. And I think I knew he was going to go every time. I knew he was going to play hard, but I didn't know if it was once it was against NBA competition, was that going to do anything? Was he going to be athletic, strong enough, whatever, against a Bobby Portis, a Giannis to make an impact? And he absolutely did. I said it before, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 for 7 from the field, a plus 30 in 30 minutes. I don't know. I mean, you can't be much better than
like
that,
said,
right?
It's all downhill from here right now. I think. I thought a couple sequences to me really stood out last night. Number one, the kind of wherewithal on the reverse layup that he had, like the wherewithal to kind of make that cut, show himself open to Dante. Dante makes the pass, and then to finish around Giannis at the rim was, to me, I think the most impressive sequence of the evening. Number two, the way that he really just kept possessions alive. I thought, to your point about being an offensive rebound menace, getting on the floor, just getting a hand on the ball. He affected a lot of possessions that maybe he didn't necessarily get a rebound for, but he kept things alive. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've seen Rudy do a lot better this year, just with the kind of tap out sort of rebounds. It seems like he's learned maybe a lesson from that. Just, hey, even if you can't get the ball, just if you put a hand on it, you might get it to a teammate. And he seems very well equipped to be that kind of.
Looks like he loves doing that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like different NBA players who will show you a game or a pocket of a game where their energy's great. They're flying all over the floor, but it's not that's an exception, to the mean where they really turn it up for a period of time. But then there's other players, the more scrappy type of, we've had like the Josh Okogis, the Jalen Clarks, those type of guys who that's what they do. That's just what they do. Yeah. And there's power in that makes up for other skills that are missing. And Beringer definitely has other skills that are missing right now. He just turned 19 years old. But he's one of those guys who looks eager to be on the floor, not like, I got to go dive on the floor to generate this jump ball here, which that's a lot of players in the NBA don't want to be doing the hand fighting for an offensive rebound, being super physical, like every minute that they're out there. And Beringer seems to be, I don't know if it's rare, but a rarer type of breed of player who just enjoys that stuff. Like he got the offensive rebound, they kicked out to Julius Randle, and Julius Randle hit that 3. Yes. Like Beringer's like, he like celebrated, like, let's fucking go, Like he was about it. He was about that element of the game.
And it was a good night to be about that because Milwaukee had no interest in being about that.
No.
At all. Like none. Like none. Milwaukee, I mean, I heard Doc say after the game that it was like the first home game after a long road trip kind of malaise, but that was more than that, man. I mean, they had no interest in putting forth any effort on, especially on the defensive end of the floor at all. No. And so somebody who comes in, a rookie, eager to get on the floor, eager to do the little things, to make the hustle plays, and combined with his athletic ability, it's going to stand out on a night like last night. And kudos to him. It's been literally almost half the season before we've seen him in real rotation minutes now. And, as we've discussed before, behind the scenes, obviously the language barrier was a bit more of an obstacle initially than maybe we assumed. They've overcome it. Time in the G League was productive for him, just getting some reps in. And I think, being around this team can be very beneficial. Practicing against this team, even while not getting those reps, can be very beneficial. Being around Rudy, seeing how he approaches the day-to-day preparation, the mindset, how Rudy attacks the offensive glass. I think that rubbed off on him. And just to paraphrase Chris Finch, high marks all around. Right? Yeah.
It was cool to see his teammates embrace him too.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I didn't anticipate that happening, but it was almost like they knew what Johan didn't know. And Nas walks over. He's like, hey, this is what we're doing here. Jalen Clark went up to, I noticed that a couple times throughout the game of like, hey, just this is what's happening here. And he's probably going to need to have some of that stuff put directly in front of him for him to understand and execute. But having your teammates want to support that and empower that rather than being like, ugh, this guy speaks French, you know what I'm saying? Like there was none of that. They look so eager for him to be having success out there. And I think because I think they know they need a Joan Beringer. Maybe not in the rotation and maybe not on Friday against Houston. Maybe, I don't know, Houston's pretty big. But I think they know that this team needs to have that option of going to another 6'11" big who can defend the rim, and they want to empower that. They want to make that happen. They want to guide that. Like, that's what it looked like to me. We weren't at the game, didn't get to talk to players afterwards, but they looked eager to help. And and I think that was helpful.
I think it's one thing about this team's culture in general, and I even think to a larger extent NBA culture, there is a real palpable sense of rooting for your teammates, like of being supportive. Even if somebody is quote unquote ahead of you in the rotation, you always have to be a supportive teammate and rooting for their success. And I think that's been especially true of this group. Kind of with Ant typically at the head of that. He wasn't there last night, but I think that carries on through Nas, through Jaden, through Mike.
Yeah.
Obviously kind of setting that tone. And I think it's one of the good things about seeing this team on a day-to-day basis is they do, I think it's genuine, root for each other, even if they're not playing or even if they're out of the rotation. And you're right, to see the support that he was getting, the help. I did notice that moment where Nas, like I think it was on a free throw, kind of came over to him to whisper something in his ear. Yeah. And that's something that Nas has been stepping up more into.
He's been in that spot
too. Yeah, he's been in that spot. That was Johan was Nas. Maybe not with as much maybe future job security as Johan probably has as a first round pick, but yeah, coming from the G League and you're getting your first minutes and you're squaring off against Giannis. And I think for Nas, that moment was squaring off against Jokic early in his career. That was one of his first early welcome to the NBA moments. So I'm sure Nas could relate to a certain extent. You're taking on a premier big man in the league. Yeah, it was just, one of the best wins of the season for a number of reasons last night. But Johan, man, he looks like he belongs. And I think to your point too, maybe it makes it a little easier to root for him because like Johan's not taking shots from anybody.
No.
Yeah, right. I thought about that too. I'm like Johan's not exactly just going to be in his bag on the perimeter, dribbling out of possession and then taking a three, right? Like Johan's 7 shots are going to come from a lob at the rim because he's open, an offensive putback, this and that. So it is easy to root for guys that do the dirty work that maybe you yourself don't always do. So I will say that about Johan.
Finch was asked by John after the game if Beringer could be in the rotation when Gobert returns. And Finch said it was possible. He said, quote, "We can. People are going to have to sacrifice minutes, but if he plays like this, then we should be benefiting from everybody. We will step by step this. Since draft night, we've long believed in this kid. This is just the beginning." The issue is the same issue in minute availability. There's 96 total minutes available in the front court for the Wolves, right? 48 at center, 48 at power forward. You kind of want to play Nas, Julius, and Rudy all 32 minutes. That fills up your 96. So I don't know what that means about sacrificing minutes. I can't really see Nas or Julius or Rudy dropping under 30 minutes in games consistently so as to create 12 a night for Beringer. I still go back to, if you want to create 12 to 15 minutes a night for him, it requires at least some Nas at the three, which we haven't seen much of yet other than randomly in games here and there. I would guess he doesn't play against Houston. What do you think?
I don't think so. The kind of unfortunate coincidence for Johan and having this great debut right now is that they haven't played badly of late. They've been playing some of their best basketball when fully healthy. So why rock the boat? Right? There's really no need right now to change what they were doing the last 5 games before last night. That's that's to me is like the kind of pouring water on last night is, well, if this was a month ago when they were still struggling, or 6 weeks ago when they were still trying to find their way, especially on the defensive end of the floor, and a night like this happened and Johan gets 29 minutes and plays like this, then we're saying he needs to be a part of the rotation. But it's like, okay, when they're back to full strength, they've been playing really well.
Right.
So is there room? Do you threaten to really throw off that balance a little bit? Is there that room? I think there can be a happy medium here. I think Johan could still find a early Jalen Clark kind of situational couple of minutes here and there,
like 8
at the end of a half or something like that, or somebody gets in foul trouble, whatever, what have you. But who are you taking the minutes from?
Right.
Everybody's been playing well.
And there's some risk to the idea of playing Nas at the 3. We don't know that's going to work. That is a very much an open question. I would assume it's what kind of we thought it was going to be before the season, the Luka Garza rule.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like bigs are hurt, bigs are in foul trouble.
You literally just get called battlefield promotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you get this better than I do, can you explain the Gobert flagrant foul situation? Because that's probably the most direct path.
Sure.
To Beringer playing.
It is I even screwed up the other night when I was trying to explain it on Twitter because it's a little complicated. So to run it all down, okay. Rudy Gobert is at 6 flagrant foul points. It does not go by the number of flagrant fouls you've committed. It goes by the number of flagrant foul points you have accumulated throughout the season. When you get a flagrant 1, that is 1 point. When you get a flagrant 2, that's 2 points. Rudy has 4 flagrant 1s and a flagrant 2 this season, 6 points. NBA rules mandate that once you hit 6 points, you get a 1-game suspension. That's where he was last night. If he reaches 7 points, if he gets another one, it's another 1-game suspension. 8 points or more. Once you hit 8 points or more, it is a 2-game suspension for every flagrant foul you get there. So the next time Rudy Gobert commits a flagrant foul, whether it's a 1 or a 2 is very much going to matter whether he gets suspended 1 game or 2 games. Okay. So he has one more flagrant foul 1, he gets a 1-game suspension. Then everything from then on out is 2 games. It does reset for the playoffs. The team confirmed that a few weeks ago when we were kind of first talking about that. But there is, and I will just add one caveat to that, there is one nightmare scenario, and we're gonna have to watch out for this late in the season. Let's say Rudy gets a flagrant foul in game 82. That suspension does not carry over to next season. It carries over to the playoffs. So while the flagrant point counter resets game 1 of the postseason, if he picked one up at the last game of the regular season, he'd have to serve that suspension in the playoffs. That's what the team confirmed.
Or even game 81.
Or even game 81, if it was a 2-game suspension, that could carry over. So we're going to have to see, like, if those games don't matter, it may be worth it for them to just sit Rudy like the last game or 2 of the season. But it's very confusing. But suffice it to say, Rudy Gobert faces a suspension the rest of the regular season anytime he commits a flagrant foul.
Guess how many flagrant fouls Rudy Gobert picked up in 9 seasons in Utah?
Ooh, 4.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
there you go. Yeah.
That was not planned.
Yeah, so what the hell is going on? Why is it at 6?
It's a mix. Like, it's a mix of stuff. Like, I think he has a couple of those closeouts, right? The kind that got him in trouble the other night. He's smacked guys across the face at the rim. I think of Alex Caruso in Oklahoma City. He had the one where it was frustration boiling over against Phoenix.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Mark Williams. Yeah. That was the flagrant 2 because Mark Williams was in the air and Rudy shoved him while he was in the air. And so I think if we're identifying maybe a common theme here, so let's take that Mark Williams one. Rudy, that was boiling over for the whole game.
Yeah.
It's seemingly. And Rudy has complained, Finch has complained, the team has complained that Rudy is getting hacked. He's getting hit in the head. He's getting hit across the face. And not only is there no flagrant foul called, there's no foul called at all in a lot of these situations.
Right.
So on nights when Rudy's facing some of that, maybe the frustration boils over a little bit. And Rudy is not as careful and maybe lets the elbow fly or maybe lets the contact happen. You know, I don't know. That's my best guess, but I could be wrong.
I think the easiest one to accidentally get a flagrant is the landing zone thing. When you close out on a shooter, that's how he got the flagrant in the last game that got him suspended. I remember Cat would always do when he would close out, he would come up on the guy and then they'd shoot over him and he would kind of turn his head to the shot going to the basket. And while his body was still going forward a little bit, Cat would always do that. Rudy did that on that one there. Like, that's just a thing that I think Rudy, especially with as big as his feet are, he needs to be intentional about of like, okay, you're closing out on the shooter here on the perimeter. Don't turn. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens with the shot. Like, you need to make sure he doesn't land on you. I mean, I guess if he does, then Joan Beringer.
Correct.
We'll play there. But
and that's just it. It's not like technical fouls where you can really control your reaction to whether or not you get a technical foul, just based on how you argue with the refs. But if you are in a closeout situation, is that going to be in the back of his mind now of, oh shoot, I'm closing out?
Has to be.
Let me make sure I don't get a flagrant foul here. And does that affect? You don't want him to lose his aggressiveness in those situations, but you can't help human nature but to think that might be on his mind anytime he's closing out.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Rudy's just playing so much more of like a physical, like fighty type game in general. And I do think more of these are going to happen.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how many it is and what the sort of recourse is there. Well, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, and at Prize Picks, you can now use the teams tab to pick winners or make picks against the spread. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites against the Bills on Saturday. The Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites over the 49ers. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites over the Texans, and the Rams are 3.5-point favorites on the road in Chicago at the Bears. You can make picks on all of that and more over at Prize Picks. And if the NFL isn't your thing, they got all the other sports. They got NBA on there for sure. You can pick winners for NBA games. You can pick against the spread for NBA games, and you can pick totals amongst other things in NBA games as well. Like I've been saying, I think the awards tab is fun there. Keep tabs on the MVP race, or maybe a little bit more relevant for the Wolves, the Defensive Player of the Year race. Rudy Gobert is currently 4x on your wager to win Defensive Player of the Year. Anyways, there's always something going on at Prize Picks. You know that on the Players tab. But the Teams tab is new and allows you the opportunity to pick games directly. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code DANE. When you sign up, you'll receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane. But let's talk a little bit about away from Beringer, just the offense overall last night. A key piece of it was the Bucks were not great defensively in that game, but right away in the first quarter, they were great. Ball movement was so on point. No Anthony Edwards, no Rudy Gobert, no problem. Jaden right away, aggressive to his shot. He made 4 or 5 shots right away there, 5 for 5, I think, in the first quarter, when 4 of those were threes. I've written down they were at 62% from 3 in the first half, 52% from 3 for the game. I think we do way too much of this, like, oh, it was an outlier shooting night one way or the other. It's hard to win a game when you shoot 27%, or, oh, you got lucky to win the game because you shot 50%. I don't believe that. I believe that, like, the percentages are more often than not, or in the big picture, a representation of how you're playing. And, 62% in the first half from 3 is a little ridiculous, but the ball movement was a little ridiculous too, like in a very good way. I thought just from the jump that the offense was there. Many players stepped up in their aggressiveness with Anthony Edwards out of the lineup. What stood out to you most about the offense?
It was just, it felt like, I thought going into the night, I'm like, okay, no Rudy, no Ant. I do remember it was like 3 years ago, the no Ant, no Cat game against the Knicks.
Yeah,
remember that game, the Taurean Prince game? Yeah. I'm like, well, Taurean Prince is in the building tonight. He's not playing, but Taurean Prince is in the building tonight. And so I'm like, can we see a repeat of that game from 3 years ago where it was like one of their best offensive nights of the season without then their two best offensive players? And that's exactly what happened. I'm not surprised. I will say one thing we've seen in these non-Ant games, Julius has really stepped up when Ant has been out, and it just seems like Julius has no confusion. He knows exactly what's asked of him, what's required of him, how he's going to operate. He knows the offense is going to be largely running through him. And I think to see that kind of just clarity, that knowing what he has to do to help them win this game because Ant is out tonight, like just seeing him kind of take over the main responsibility of running the offense every time down the floor has been one of the reasons why they've been, I think it's 5-3, is it, with Ant out this season?
Yeah, so I went through and I included in those numbers that I sent you the game in LA where Ant left 3 minutes into the game.
Yes,
I included that in a non-Ant game here. The numbers are awesome every single game. That Ant has been out for Julius Randle. 31-4-6, 24-7-3, 33-5-6, 37-4, 19-11-10. 27-9-6, 24-10-3, 21-5-3, and then last night he was 29-8-6, and almost all of that came in the first half. Overall, in those games, the 9 games that Ant has been out, if we include the Lakers game, he left 3 minutes in. He's averaging over 26 points per game in those games, over 6 rebounds, over 5 assists, shooting 61% from 2 and 37% from 3. I mean, this is a big sample size at this point. It isn't just like, those first 4 or 5 games at the beginning of the year where Ant missed and Julius played. It was like, oh, this is like a night. Julius is stepping up, for this week. No, Julius is stepping up every single time they need him to step up with Ant out of the game. And it almost has me like thinking about designing the rotation around like when Ant is out, when Ant sits out the first Julius, 6 minutes of the second quarter, first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, like, could we just do this, right? Like Julius out there all the time. There's kind of been a lot of like Ant and Julius off the floor together. Over the last month in those pockets of time. But this is really, really good production from a player whose production is increasing, efficiency is increasing when the guy who gets double teams every single time he's out there is not on the floor. Like that's something not only commendable, I wonder if it's something
they should lean into
act
a little
on.
more.
Right. Like it's consistent. It's super consistent.
Well, I think, and you look at the lineup that was around him last night and shooters everywhere in the starting lineup, right?
Good point.
Rudy's not there, so everybody's a threat to shoot from outside. So anytime they bring any extra attention to him, out right it away. Goes, right? That's just an easy read. Number one. Number two, I mean, how many possessions did Julius just back somebody down, get around somebody, and then nobody was coming to help at the rim, whether because the Bucks just had no effort or just didn't want to, like, or because they didn't want to double, like whatever. But there were so many possessions. Okay, Julius backing this guy down, gets around. Oh, there's nobody at the rim. Okay, layup, like easy. So it was just a very easy game for him to navigate because of the personnel that was on the floor with him. Just very easy reads if they're coming with a double. If not, then okay, get around this guy and you're at the rim and nobody's there. So lay it in. Literally maybe the easiest game he's had all season, I think, from that perspective, because
wouldn't have expected that against Giannis.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Like I talked about we talked about after they played Jaren Jackson Jr., you know, and Julius overly asserting himself in those sort of spots and kind of having some, you know, needing to navigate accordingly based on what the matchup was or is. And I think against Cleveland too, I was a little concerned about that with Mobley and Allen, but I thought he navigated those really well from an offensive standpoint in both those games and this Giannis one. I just feel like Julius is settling well into this number 2 scorer role and can scale up to number 1 when they need it. Again, just the efficiency is very, very much there. Outside of him, I would say the 3 other players who really ramped up their aggression or their offensive input was Bones Highland, Jaden at the beginning of the game, Jaden McDaniels at the beginning of the game, then even Jalen Clark, right? Like he was super aggressive last night.
He was very aggressive.
And it all kind of worked.
It did. Bones, man, that's bullet point number 2 as to what's most encouraging coming out of last night. Having Bones Highland score 23 points, 9 of 16, and you heard Finch in the post game saying we were challenging him at shoot around. We need a little more out of him. He's been a good shot in the arm, but we think there's more there. Obviously, it's indicative of what I think they have planned for him the rest of the season here. And maybe a good indication of what they may or may not do at the trade deadline, if this is what they're asking Bones to do. And if he can deliver this, then what do you really need to do at the deadline? If Bones is going to be giving you this off the bench as your backup point guard, not to say it's going to happen all the time, but to have nights where he can reach this level. He hasn't had that yet,
right, here
in Minnesota. And to see this, I think was a revelation. The response to the challenging at shoot around, when we hear that sometimes from Finch and the players, like, yeah, they got on me at shoot around today, or they got on me in film, and you know, and it felt like good timing for that, especially on a night when you know that he's going to have extra opportunity because Ant is out.
Well, I think that's why it happened.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
like to win this game, we need more guard scoring punch, you know, and who are the options? If it's not Bones, it's more Jalen Clark, you know, or like they needed Bones to be as aggressive as he's ever been, and he was as aggressive as I've ever seen him in a Timberwolves uniform. Like right when he checked in,
100%,
it was like, whoa, okay, because I do think that Bones, like Rob, has been a little bit confused about what the role is, because there is a lot of point guarding duties there, right? And in that, I've seen both Bones and Rob be a little confused about, what do you need me? What am I supposed to be doing here? Am I looking for my shot? Am I the point guard? Rob has been a little lost with that. Bones has kind of navigated it effectively, but Finch talked in the post game last night about, like, you know, we need you to be you, not just be the point guard player that we need out there. I thought that was an interesting distinction to make. And to your point, I think that's what this roster needs, or they need to go get it externally at the trade deadline. And Finch and Conley, it'd be smart to be like, well, this is just here. Let's make sure let's just get it out of Bones, you know, and not need to make that move at the deadline.
It did come on a night that Ant is out. And so, okay, you do this on a night that Ant is out. Now, when you're sharing the floor with Ant, what does that look like?
Yeah,
that's the challenge now. It's easy. It's easy to come in and say, all right, Ant's not here. More shots available, more usage for everybody. Let me go out, try to get mine and get going, right? When Ant's there and Ant's got the ball in his hands a lot, how do you play off of that? How do you find that aggressiveness while still kind of have an Ant be the one that's initiating the offense?
I think that's hard.
That's going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
That's why I think throughout the course, the early part of the season, the Julius Ant combo has taken a little more time than I imagined to get a little more settled. And that's why I think on nights when Ant is out, you see Julius just has this green light of very defined things that he's ready to go to and do to run the offense. Bones, kind of the same thing. It's like, all right, no Ant, I'm coming in. They're telling me to be aggressive. Let me go out and let's do it. Let's hoop, right? can you hoop as much alongside Anthony Edwards? That's going to be the challenge for Bones going forward now.
I think that's a reps thing, of just like doing it more
Mhm.
and figuring out, oh, this was too much here, or I need to scale back, or I need to turn it up. I think it's confusing. I mean, Ant and Julius are two of the highest usage players in the league.
Mhm.
So for anybody else to assert themselves is hard. There's just not a lot of the pie left.
Yeah.
And it can feel like stealing if you do too much. If you're Bones and you come out and you're 3 for 11, you're like, okay, that hurt because that's 11 of the shots we got to take tonight. And Ant would have made them at a higher clip. Julius, whatever, would have made them at a higher clip. It'll be interesting to see if this was sort of like, will be a turning point for Bones. And it was already good. Bones was the shot in the arm, like Finch said, but if he can kind of settle into that aggression, I don't think Ant is going to like tisk him for being overly aggressive. I think Ant in particular wants Bones to be aggressive. He likes to play next to Bones there, but it's definitely something to navigate. But I don't know, man, this game, Highland and Beringer makes it seem a little silly how much we've been talking about the need, like capital N need for a backup point guard or, backup center.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, I don't know. I mean, where are you at on that?
It's all about consistency.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and how often can you reach these levels? With Johan, he's a rookie playing his first game. Okay, it was a home run, right? How many singles are you going to hit? How many doubles are you going to hit? How many times are you going to strike out? That's literally what it becomes. A question of, are you going to get good Johan minutes if you throw him in there 1 out of every 4 games, 1 out of every 3? With Bones, can you do this 1 out of every 2 games, 1 out of every 3 games? Like, that's literally what the NBA at the end of the day boils down to. Everybody has the skill. Everybody has the capability to have a night like Bones had, but it's how often can you get there? Not to say he has to score 23 points every night, but can you become just a more reliable, consistent player / scorer off the bench in those minutes that you get? And
I think it's better than 1
what
and
is
3.
the number? Yeah.
I think, the 1 and 3 thing you're referencing is he talked about that with Dillingham and Shannon. Probably 1 good game, 1 middling game, 1 bad game.
Yeah.
For those guys, and he continued on that. Once it's more good games than 1 in every 3, then you get more opportunity. That never came to fruition for Shannon or Dillingham this season yet.
No.
But for Bones, I think it's already been better than 1 in every 3. I think for him, it's at least half the games that are solid. Maybe if we scale it up, it's going to be a little bit less. There's going to be a little bit more variance in that. But with Beringer, I don't think the role's that like complicated.
Sure.
It's just kind of play hard, hit the
it's the Jalen Clark role, but for a big guy.
Yeah.
It's play hard, play defense.
And it'll probably great comp because Beringer will probably get an opportunity in some game and pick up like 3 fouls in 5 minutes, like Jalen Clark does once every 3 games or something like that. That's where he'll get a little quote unquote exposed or whatever. I like the odds. I know it's limited sample, but I like the odds that Beringer and or Bones will deliver at a more frequent clip than that 1 in 3. That was the expectation for Rob and Shannon, but we will see. Today's show is brought to you by Thrive Market. Healthy doesn't have to be perfect. Thrive Market makes it easy with small swaps, trusted ingredients, and personalized shopping that fits your lifestyle. It's the easiest way to make better choices without feeling overwhelmed, all delivered straight to your door. Healthy living doesn't have to be boring or expensive, and Thrive Market gets that. Healthy eating doesn't have to feel like being on a restrictive diet or saying no all the time. Thrive Market makes it easy to say yes to thousands of healthier versions of your favorites without giving up on taste or breaking the bank. With Thrive Market, they make it easy. Scan anything with its barcode scanner and instantly swap for a better for you version of that item. Instead of the struggle of trying to figure out what food fits your health goals, Thrive Market does the hard work for you. I've started using Thrive Market, and I think you should too. Try it out. Join Thrive Market with my link thrivemarket.com/DaneMoore, and you'll receive 30% off your first order plus a $60 gift. That's Thrive Market. Join Thrive Market with my link at thrivemarket.com/DaneMoore for 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. I do want to talk about your Julius Randle article. Honestly, I didn't even read it until yesterday. Came out last Friday, maybe.
Last Friday, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't read it over the week. That was seriously really good, man.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you. I
remind me
appreciate
of the Covington piece from, I don't know, what was that, 6-7 years
it.
ago?
Yeah.
About his mental health. I said this on Twitter the other day. Shout out to you for digging into that and allowing Julius to share his story, but also credit to Julius for an openness and a willingness to talk about his mental health journey. And also I just think it's interesting. It's making a difference. It's making a difference. The work that he's putting in on himself mentally and who he is as a person off the floor, but also really on the floor. Like,
yeah,
I can see that Julius is in a better mental place by just watching him play basketball. And I certainly see that in my interactions with him in the hallways and in the locker room. I just thought you really wrapped that piece up well. You went in depth on not just mental health, but I thought it was interesting how much he talked about moodiness.
Yes. And recognizing it.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, okay, let's flash back to when Julius first comes here to Minnesota, the first month or two of last season. It felt like you could see on Twitter every game or two, somebody was clipping a highlight of him not really trying.
Yeah.
On the quote unquote, not really trying on the defensive end of the floor or something like that. And you would look at those clips and say, he's such a moody player. He doesn't care, this, whatever, what have you. And Chris Finch looks at that and says, he often says that what fans confuse as apathy is really just guys being confused oftentimes.
Yeah.
And I think for Julius, it was that way a little bit, but there was a little bit of that moodiness in there. He acknowledged that maybe what you're seeing was true, that I am a moody player, that I do get into these funks. I do get into these emotional lulls and ebbs and flows, what have you. But it was around that time that he was also really starting to dig into doing the work to recognize when those moments were happening, recognizing what his trigger points were. And as the season went on, and then when he came back from injury, you saw those moments less and less. The clips were not going viral on Twitter anymore, and he was just in a better space mentally. So my favorite quote from the article was, "I could never be an NBA head coach because I would never want to deal with 15 versions of me. There's just no way. There's no way. 15 moody versions of myself? Absolutely not."
What good self-awareness.
Right, exactly. It's an incredibly self-aware quote. And I think he is a very self-aware person. And I see it in doing the beat job. Let's flash back to New Orleans, right?
I was gonna say.
Yeah. First game in New Orleans. He has a tough, it was the one that they won in overtime. Tough regulation for him. And then in overtime, I think he had 8 points.
Yeah.
And really helped them win in that overtime. So we request to talk to him after the game, and he just did not want to talk. Yeah. He was not in a good mood. And I even brought this up to Finch when I talked to Finch for this piece. He's like, there are times, Julius, you look at the box score, whatever, Julius has a good game, but then like he's in a bad mood or something. He's moody afterwards. And you're wondering like, what's going on, right? That's just kind of how Julius is sometimes, like, and he acknowledges it, right? And he's working on it, and he's trying to get himself, when he gets in those funks, trying to bring himself back to a good place. And I think that's the difference. Is like, he's not wallowing in his sadness or his moodiness or his depression. If he recognizes that he is getting to these places or getting to these points, he is finding ways to better himself and get back to a good place. And that, I think, is the difference. It's not that you're never going to be in a bad mood or you're never going to be angry or upset. It's okay, how do I deal with it when it happens?
Right.
And that, for Julius Randle, I think has made all the difference in the last year plus here in Minnesota.
No, absolutely. I find it fascinating that the Wolves' ceiling this season is tied in some fashion to the mental health of their number 2 scorer on their team, not in an all dissimilar way to a team whose ceiling is tied to the physical health of like Aaron Gordon, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't think it's a guarantee, as good of a player as Aaron Gordon is, that he's going to be able to play the majority of the regular season or be able to even play the majority of the playoffs, right? And that could very well be something that is the difference between the Denver Nuggets going to the NBA Finals or not. And we just don't talk about this with mental health, that is a factor in this, for the Wolves and with Julius Randle. The good news is he's not just working on it. It's not like he just started working on it. He has been working on this. And the New Orleans game is an example of kind of course correcting in the middle of a mood. I would even say the whole beginning of December, which includes that New Orleans trip, was a little bit of a pocket of time where the moodiness just came in, and he course corrected as we kind of got into the middle of December and Christmas and that period of time. I think Julius has control over this, or certainly more than he did earlier in his career. And with that, that's like a weapon. There's power in that. And it's just interesting to me how similar it is functionally is to a player who has an injury proneness, and a physical quote unquote shortcoming there as well. Not to blur like those two things. I can't remember ever thinking that before. Like, this team and their success is tied to mental health.
Yeah.
And why is that different? Why do we treat that differently than physical health? There's a ton of examples of that. Aaron Gordon's just one.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think Julius Randle's 31 years old. And I think it's a good lesson too, that even if you've been in the NBA for over a decade, there are still ways in which you can improve as a person and as a player that you don't realize even as you're moving through your mid-20s, which is why I always hesitate to say, when people say, like with Anthony Edwards, like he's in his 6th year, he should know all this stuff. You're in your mid-20s, like you still don't know everything there is to know about you or the world or how things operate in your mid-20s. As you start to round into your 30s, maybe you start to get a better idea and you start to mature more. And the one thing that Julius said that he did last year was, if he had been hurt in previous seasons, the way he was last year, he would have checked out. He would have not come around the team. He would have just been off doing his own thing, rehabbing, whatnot. But he may not have been on the bench for games. He may not have been around the team or traveling or what have you. But he didn't do that last year. He decided he was going to take a different mindset and a different approach, and it kept him engaged. It kept him around the team. It kept him in good spirits, kept him working, and he got into this routine, with these early workouts that I kind of detail.
Yeah, that was
that he's kept even now that he's healthy, and it just kept him in a better place, engaged. And I think even from my own life, I see this, and when he said this during our interview, I just personally also related to it, where it's like, when you have the urge to like self-isolate and it's easy to just like retreat from the world, to just go into your own cocoon, your own bubble, and just retreat and not deal with people, the outside world. Those are probably the times when you should be around people and engaging more and have people uplifting you and helping alter that mood, because it's not going to happen by itself, sitting in your own 4 walls and it's not going to work that way.
4 walls of a room and the 4 walls of your mind,
right?
And,
yeah.
and he's talked about stopping smoking weed, and
Right.
that only furthers the four wall. You're only more alone in those four walls if you're high,
Yep.
and yeah, I just think it's really good recognition. It's just a commendable thing, like as a dude who struggles with some of this stuff
Mhm.
and would just benefit from applying some different tools. And the early workout thing, I think, is a great example of that. Like,
Mhm.
he is someone who can get flustered in a room, in a crowd, right? So now, as Chris detailed in his story, and he's been doing this for a while now too, like 3-4 hours before the game, Julius will come and get in his pregame work.
Yep.
Normally it's like
Sometimes an hour and a half, hour.
hour.
even.
I mean,
Yeah,
some of the
yeah,
guys are out there doing their stuff at like 5:45, 6,
Right.
Julius is getting there at like 4
Mhm.
to do it in a
Empty arena.
empty arena.
Yeah.
Like, nobody can even go in there until 4:45.
Mhm.
I just think it's not just that Julius has a recognition of what he's been struggling with. He's found direct tools to use to sort of course correct. And yeah, it's commendable. And it's the cool thing about sports is, like, it can be a physical manifestation of something. And the success that he's having this year, I don't think he's going to make the all-star team, but a near all-star caliber start to the season after signing a new contract. I don't know. He just seems like he's in a really, just a really good place.
Couple other notes I want to mention from the piece. He said that he works with his psychologist, Dr. Amen, and he gets tools from Dr. Amen to help improve his relationships around the team. And he has consciously kind of gone out of his way to use tools or ways in which he can improve relationships. And I asked him, I said, well, what's maybe one relationship that really benefited from that? He said, with Finch. He said that was one way, like, using the tools that Dr. Amen gave him to improve his relationship with Finch. Finch has always kind of recognized this, and I spoke with Finch as well for this piece. Finch's quote in the piece is like, mood recognizes mood. Like, I'm a moody guy myself, and we have a whole team that's a moody team, all this stuff. But I think it also, to me, this piece and Julius's comments and Finch's comments really illustrate, I think, something we don't see often about NBA life. And it is just about how, like, relationships and the relationship between a player and a team, or a player and the coaching staff, why these things matter so much in the NBA. And you see whether it's like a front office, like, acquiring a certain player because the GM had him as the assistant GM here, or
Sure.
the head coach had this guy in this city, now he's going to play for him over here. Like, these relationships and people kind of knowing each other really matter in the NBA. Imagine if Julius Randle gets traded to a team last year where nobody knows him, where nobody knows how to deal with him, nobody knows about his moodiness, but Chris Finch does, and other people around the team that have been around Julius, they know what he's like. Imagine how this situation turns out differently if you don't have that prior knowledge about Julius Randle and how to get the best out of him. So again, when I see people complaining on Twitter about timeout usage and substitution patterns and all this stuff, at the end of the day, I think hopefully this piece illustrates that there's also a lot more to coaching and front office management, things like that in the NBA than meets the eye. And I think this is a perfect example of how those things intersect in ways that fans don't always see. The way that just understanding a player, what they need emotionally, and the support that they need can affect how they play on the floor. And so I think it's one thing to maybe keep in mind about just what you see in front of you. These players are human beings with very, and especially this Timberwolves team, very up and down emotions. Almost everybody on the team can be described as moody in one way or another. And it's just kind of, how do you deal with it? And Julius Randle has found a really good way of dealing with it. And the coaching staff and the front office, I think it's something they're very cognizant of on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, the Finch piece is huge.
Yeah.
And if you can recognize that Julius Randle is helping this team this season, which he is, then Chris Finch deserves credit for that. The quote I put down from Finch in the piece with you was, quote, "I just was stubborn in my determination to make it work because I knew he was a really good player. We had also traded a really good player in Towns, and I'm like, we owe it to ourselves to try and make this thing work." And I think that has been one of Finch's most direct things he's worked on every single day, with this team. I don't mean this in a bad way or anything, but I've never seen Finch protect a player in the media more than he has with Julius Randle. He has a at times he'll publicly critique what Ant's not doing, what Jaden needs to do more of, what Rudy needs to do more of. He applies a different strategy to Julius Randle because Julius Randle needs something different out of him. It's very, we've covered him his entire time here. The way Finch talks about Randle is unlike any other protected, empowered, whatever you want to call it. It's just different. And that's good awareness on the coach. And I think that is played at least some role amongst all the other stuff that's working with Julius and his role on the team and all of those sort of things. But if Julius Randle has worked in Minnesota, it's a credit to Julius Randle, obviously, for making it work, but it's a credit to Finch as well for seeing the vision, as they say, right? And kind of knowing that he could make it work. And they've had to kind of grind through. They had to grind through this period of time last season to make that work and let the cake bake. But I think Finch deserves a lot of credit here as well. I know you got to take off here pretty quick. I really would, just for listeners, recommend checking this out because it's a unique type of story that we don't get a ton of, but not to be like crass or anything. I found it very interesting to take the information in that he was talking to you about or talk to you about and apply it to basketball.
How he's playing. Yeah.
Sure. It's, and that's okay to do too.
That's okay to do. I think so too.
And
it makes sense.
That was my whole physical health, mental health sort of deal. But yeah, much like you said too, I connected to some of the things Julius was talking about in there too. Just about being a person. And again, to shout out Julius, very real interview.
It was a very great interview. I interviewed kind of in two parts. Just the openness with which he talked about it all. There was nothing that he was really afraid to talk about or didn't want to talk about. He was just open to it all, very candid, the same way like you mentioned with Robert Covington 7 years ago when I did that piece with him. It was kind of the same thing. It was just like we're sitting down and we're just having this conversation for a little while, and it turned out really great. That's
a credit to you too.
I appreciate that. I will say Julius was in a very good mood that day, and it was a fun chat. We even talked about like one thing that he and I sometimes talk about, off the record is like, he's a big foodie, so we talk about food and restaurants and dishes like that. So I got him on the record, kind of talking about his favorite restaurants in the Twin Cities. Cool, that was fun. Just a very fun overall chat, and it's great to see. When you, especially I'll throw Dante in here too, just kind of seeing their growing comfort in Minnesota after what was a very, I think more than we realized at the time, and we covered it a bit towards the end of last year, but a very jolting trade for all involved, especially that close to the season happening. And just to see his and Dante's growing comfort with this team, with living here, I really don't think it can be underestimated just what that does for the on-court production as well, as you said.
The piece is titled NBA veteran Julius Randle finds an inner peace in his routine with the Timberwolves. You can see that up on the screen now on YouTube. I would put this in definitely take the time to read box here. for this team. Also, newsletter comes out today. I've not.
It was
read
yesterday.
That.
It was
Came out yesterday. What's
Yep.
that about?
We talked about Ant's kind of bag and closing situations based off of what happened in San Antonio. Kind of just what he was saying the other night post game after the Spurs about how he's attacked those situations. What what Rudy Gobert kind of said, like he wasn't playing hero ball, whereas other years he might have had a tendency to play hero ball. And I just thought that possession against Wembanyama was, and the one earlier against Stephen Castle, very indicative of the change we've seen in Anthony Edwards, not 100%. Settling for a step back three. Wemby, it would have been very easy for him, I felt like, to just say, oh, I've got Wemby against me. Let me just take a step back here and just hoist a three. Instead, he kept probing and trying to find an opening, towards the, towards the bucket. He got to that, right. It was a 1 point game.
He did not need to take.
He did not need a three, but it would have been very easy for him to just settle on that. But he kept probing, kept trying to find the right moment, and he found it, and he got that floater to go.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just very indicative of maybe some growth we've seen in Ant.
Absolutely.
In those situations.
And I would assume we will get Ant back this weekend. He's been dealing with this toe thing for a while. I thought it made sense. He didn't have to travel to Milwaukee. So Ant, to let this heal, gets Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off.
Yeah.
If you want, I mean, off from playing in a game at least. And hopefully we see him back and playing against Houston on Friday and San Antonio on Saturday. It's gonna be a fun weekend for the Wolves. I appreciate you coming in here and doing it again. Read that Randle piece for all you listeners. You can read everything Chris does at the Star Tribune. You can get subscribed to that newsletter for free at the newsletter, or by subscribing to the newsletter as well. You don't need to be a Star Tribune subscriber for that, but Chris, and well, he's a good podcaster. He's a better writer. You guys should be checking in on all of that.
I'm not a very good podcaster. So I don't know what that says about my writing.
No, you're a very good writer. You're good at both. You're good at both. Look at your books right behind you. Right
I know.
In the background.
That little thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, man.
No problem.
And making this work before you head out of town. I appreciate it. And I don't know. When's the next home game? Next week?
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
I think it's next Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
Midst of a road trip here. I guess they came back today. Maybe we'll practice tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they will.
So we'll do that. You guys can read all Chris's work again at the Star Tribune. Follow him on Twitter at Christopher Hine. Britt is actually going to come in studio later today. On Wednesday, we'll release that on Thursday morning. This will be the Wednesday episode with Chris, and then Thursday we'll have one come out with Britt as well before our live show on Saturday at Treasure Island. But until later today with Britt, he's Chris, I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing.